the spectators making their first visit trackside all year. So it's nice to have them here, it really is, and you can see most of them are adhering to social distancing rules as well. So last couple of cars being removed, the green flag lap then will start. There's Tim Docker's TCR Golf, and that VW Golf that competed here at Oulton last year at the start of the season but wasn't eligible for points, but this year it does look as though he is in it for hopefully the full season. There's Henry Neal on those Dunlop wet tyres for him. I'm assuming everyone's gone for wet tyres. I don't think it is anywhere near dry enough yet for slick tyres, but my point is that in 20 minutes time it may well be dry enough, because these wet tyres really do displace a lot of water. There isn't a huge amount of standing water to begin with, so it's very possible that we could have a few drivers running into tyre problems. It's not so much that they wear, they start overheating those blocks on the tyre. If they don't have enough water to move, they start to move around on the surface of the road. That generates excess tyre temperature, and that can really affect the grip that you've got. And these front wheel drive cars, they need all of the front traction they can get, of course. The front wheels powering the car, dragging the car around the track. Once they start to wear out, you get a horrific understeer on turn in and through the exit of the corner. So I believe I've just been passed a message. We are waiting for the last of the cars from the previous race to be pulled out of a barrier somewhere out on the far side of the track, possibly up at Druids. So that's why we are just waiting for having a slight delay to the start, but I think they've managed to I can hear the pit siren going off, so I think that the start countdown has started. Yes, it has the 1 minute board just going out, and it will be a BRSCC minute, so it won't consist of the full 60 seconds, because the 30-second board I can see is already going out. So yeah, they're going to get the cars out onto the track relatively soon. So off they go then. Onto the warm-up lap. Henry Neal leads the field around and weaves the car from side to side to get the temperature into those tyres. Slams on the brakes as well. If you can get those brakes up to working temperature, then that will dissipate heat into the tyres as well. Darrell Wilson's got, Darrell Wilson, sorry, has got the car back out on track. I got definitive clarification from Darrell that it is Darrell, not Darrell. I've been told lots of different versions of how to say his name over the years. It is Darrell Wilson, then former VW Cup racer. He was a pioneer for diesel technology in the VW Racing Cup a few years ago. Had much success with a diesel-powered VW Scirocco. Here's the grid then. Henry Neal on pole position by virtue of winning the first race. Lewis Kent alongside him, then Max Hart and Dan Kirby, with Tim Docker and Darrell Wilson right behind. And that is your Dunlop Touring Car Trophy grid. The race has been shortened, by the way, to 18 minutes. So 18 minutes will be the new duration for this one. The VW Cup grid, Jeff Alden has drawn reverse grid pole. It was a top 6 grid reversal. Andrew Wilmot is second. Mark Wakefield and Liam Griffin returning to the championship. They make up row 2 ahead of the top 2, Josh Coggan and Richard Gill. But then it's Bradley Kent who was on pole for race 1. He's alongside Ollie Brown. Kieran Griffin and Tony Prendergast on row 5 ahead of Paul de Hadre and Will Butler. And then it is further back. There are a couple more rows of the grid, but that is the bulk of the front runners. You can see here the track is definitely getting dry on the racing line. It's going to be interesting this on tyres, isn't it? They'll all be on the wet tyres, but those who look after the tyres better in the early stages are going to have the speed later on. I think they'll all be quite glad to hear that it's been shortened to 18 minutes, this one, because if it was the full 20 minutes, they might have one or two troubles with tyre conservation towards the end. So green flag lap then coming towards its conclusion for the TCT cars. The VWs though, Jeff Alden is not in a hurry to get back to the grid, and why should he be, because he's in this for himself to win the VW Cup. He doesn't really care about the TCT cars out in front. He's going to warm his tyres up as much as he can. And you can see how much further ahead the TCT machines are as they head into Lodge Corner. And Lewis Kent in that beautiful looking Hyundai i30N TCR heads over Deer Leap and is about to line up on the outside of row number 1. So round number 2 then of the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy incorporating TCR UK and the VW Racing Cup just a few moments away. Thank you everyone for joining us from Oulton Park. And as the cars line up on the grid, it is going to be an interesting 18 minutes of action, I reckon, here. Who will get the best start? That's going to be key to who comes out on top in this race, because Henry Neal has got Lewis Kent alongside, and Lewis is a decent starter. And he will want to win this race. He'll be mainly looking to beat the other TCR entrants, I suppose, but if he can beat Henry Neal as well, that would be very useful indeed. Revs then starting to rise, ready to go racing for the second time with the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy incorporating TCR UK and the VW Racing Cup. Ready to go, Henry Neal and Lewis Kent on the front row. Lewis Kent is away better this time, gets a bit of wheel spin in the second phase of the start, but his reaction time was better. Has he been able to beat Henry Neal into the first corner? I think he might have done, yes. Lewis Kent has got the lead away. Henry Neal can't fight back into the right-hander. It's Max Hart in third. He holds on to his grid position. There goes Richard Gilbert, the race 1 winner in the VWs, already making some progress. He's into about third or fourth in class on the run down the hill, but it's Kent that leads the way. Henry Neal second, Max Hart third, Darryl Wilson into fourth from sixth. That's a good start from him, with Dan Kirby in fifth position, and Tim Docker again not off the line all that strongly. Then it is still going to be Jeff Alden that leads in the VWs by the looks of it. The battle on for second place, though. Henry Neal has not got away all that strongly here, and Max Hart will be buoyed by his first podium in his first race earlier on today. Can he now back that up with a second one, maybe even challenge for a race win? Well, he is in a car that we know is capable of winning races, but will he be able to get after Lewis Kent? There is the VW pack, and look at the way that those two green Golfs have got themselves to the sharp end. Second and third place for Coggan and Gilbert. I'm going to assume it's Coggan in front. He started ahead of Gilbert on the grid, but they're all really stacking up behind the race leader Jeff Alden. So that VW Cup part of the race is going to get very lively very quickly. Here they come over the hill, look, scrabbling around, and Jeff Alden doesn't know where to go. He's got cars to the left, cars to the right. It is Richard Gilbert that is second, and into the back of him and gets him sideways. Oh no! Jeff Alden almost rolls over, gets up onto two wheels. He's on the grass, and Josh Coggan comes through. No, Richard Gilbert comes through in the number 2 car to take the lead. It was Coggan that got into the back of Jeff Alden, and poor Jeff Alden falling down the order. Bradley Kent is off the road as well. It has all gone wrong in the VW Cup class. Look at this. Well, this was the end of it. Jeff Alden rejoining, and they were 3 abreast as he did so, and Bradley Kent ends up on the grass. The big foam barrier is in the middle of the road now, and I think Mark Wakefield, no, it might be Andy Wilmot actually has got the class lead. I'm not too sure. We'll find out for you in a moment. The TCT cars have just come through. It is Andy Wilmot that leads the way in the VWs, I can see. They're number 21, but it's Lewis Kent that leads the way. Henry Neal in second, 1.3 seconds further back, with Max Hart third, Darryl Wilson fourth, Dan Kirby fifth, and Tim Docker sixth. Then this is the fight for the lead in the VW Racing Cup, and it is Andy Wilmot that leads the way, with the race 1 winner Richard Gilbert all over him now. In third position is number 34, and that is a car that we haven't mentioned all day long. Brilliant start that, the reverse grid possibly helping a little bit, I suppose, but nonetheless that is an impressive start. It's always nice to see new drivers getting themselves towards the pointy end, and that number 34 car then being piloted by Oliver Brown, who was only 14th on the grid for the first race, but he's really managed to improve. He's up there in a podium place right now, ahead of Josh Coggan. So, deep breath everyone, that was an entertaining opening lap and a half or so. Through Shell comes the field, and side by side for the race lead now. Josh, around the outside goes Richard Gilbert on Andy Wilmot. He's got the inside line for the Britain Chicane, and he has now gone through. So Richard Gilbert gets himself back in front, and can Wilmot fight back? He's going to try as they come over the hill. He gets a good exit from the corner, and then it's Ollie Brown trying to get through as well. 3, 4, 5, 6 of them nose to tail over the hill. Headlight singular on for Richard Gilbert. I was about to say headlights, but only one of them is working. There's Josh Coggan, his teammate, trying to get past Ollie Brown before his teammate escapes up the road. Andy Wilmot's all over the place going through his lops. Gets a wheel on the grass there as he turns out of the corner. Jeff Oulton, I just saw out of my window, trudging down the pit lane, so he's out of the race now, unfortunately. And he had rather a significant impact with that foam stack down at the Hislop chicane. So Richard Gilbert then leads the way. Second place for Wilmot now. Brown in third, and Brown in that team hard car looks really competitive now. Heads out of Druid's corner, tries to get the power down and attack into Lodge, but actually it's Josh Coggan that's attacking him and looks to the inside line there as they hit the apex. Not sure if he was able to make that one work or not over the hill. No, he's still behind, so still fourth place for Coggan, and this will be frustrating him. Out of the window, by the way, I've just seen Dan Kirby coming into the pits, and Dan Kirby, who was on pole position for our first race of the day in the TCT class, unfortunately in the pit lane with some sort of a problem. We didn't see it on the screen, but Dan Kirby is in the pits and looks as though he is out of the race, so that will promote Tim Docker to fifth. I think that's the only difference it makes, though. Dan Kirby was running in fifth position, and Tim Docker right behind him has now been able to go through. So VW Cup cars make their way down into Island Bend, and there is Richard Gilbert going through the quick left-hander. Such a fearsome corner, one of the quickest left-handers in British motorsport, and then into one of the tightest right-handers at Shell. But you can carry quite a bit of speed in there because it is banked. You can keep that momentum up through the corner, and Richard Gilbert trying to do just that. Then it's Liam Griffin, and right behind him Mark Wakefield, who I spoke to between races, and he said that he really felt there was a lot more to come from that car in the second race of the day. And Wakefield looks as though he is making good on his promise, because he is challenging Liam Griffin. He's running in sixth at the moment, but he could move into the top five at any moment. No one really escaping here in the VW Racing Cup part of the race. Lewis Kent is escaping out in front, though, in TCT. He is 2.8 seconds ahead of Henry Neal in second position, who's 1.5 ahead of Max Hart in third, who is 1.8 ahead of Darrell Wilson in fourth. So there's no real change there. I think the big changes are going to come in the second half of the race once tyre wear starts to play a factor. There is Lewis Kent going through Old Hall Corner and heading out of that quick right-hander, 2.9 ahead, because on that lap he was only 0.2 of a second quicker than the second place car, Henry Neal, who set a personal best lap. So Lewis Kent's last lap time was about 0.8 off his best, and yet Henry Neal just set a personal best. So does that mean that Neal is starting to come into his own now, or was it just a bad lap for Lewis? Find out. Lewis Kent was runner-up in the championship in 2019, runner-up in TCT behind Henry Neal, and runner-up in TCR behind James Turkington, two younger relatives of British touring car champions. And Lewis Kent, who himself I'm sure would love to become a British touring car champion in the future, would like to become TCR UK champion first, and he hammers those curbs in the Hyundai. Always does ride the curbs well, that i30M. He heads over Hilltop now, down the hill towards the braking zone at Hislops. Henry Neal in second. There's Max Hart in the distance in third. Now the real question here is going to be what sort of lap times we can get out of Henry Neal here through the second half of the race. If he can look after those tyres, he might be able to challenge the race leader Lewis before the checkered flag. This, though, is Andy Wilmot, who has just lost second position by the looks of it in the VW Cup to Ollie Brown. Ollie Brown has got himself into P2, and Ollie now will set off after Richard Gilbert if he can. The gap was about 1.5 seconds at the start of the lap. We'll see whether or not that is going up or down by the end of it. TCT cars come through. Druids all fairly well spaced out. Max Hart in third position in the Cupra. Car 101, really impressive debut this for the Irish driver by the Maximum Motorsport squad, and that team know how to prepare a TCR car. That is, as I say, I'm pretty sure the car that James Turkington raced to the title last year, and the one that Stuart Lyons himself, the man behind Maximum Motorsport, raced in the championship the year before that. There's Darrell Wilson in fourth. Lap times continuing to get better for Henry Neal, continuing to not get better for Lewis Kent. But Kent, even though he's not on his personal best pace, is still a couple of tenths quicker than Henry Neal. So 3.1 seconds is now the gap between the top two, and then a further 4 seconds back to Max Hart in third. Wilson in 4th position there, and Tim Docker in 5th. And although some drivers are lapping kind of a tenth or so quicker than the driver in front of them, none of these gaps are coming down all that rapidly. So not much likely to change for the time being at the top of the field. In the VW Racing Cup, Richard Gilbert has just a 9/10 of a second advantage over Brown, who is quicker. So the real battle is the one that's developing for the lead of the VW Racing Cup. It looks as though the second place man, Ollie Brown, is catching the race leader Richard Gilbert. That is really, really impressive pace from Ollie, who was, as I say, not a driver we necessarily expected to be competing for race wins, simply because he was a bit of an unknown quantity. But Richard Gilbert, there you can see with Ollie Brown now not all over him, but certainly closer to him than he was earlier on. They're dropping Andy Wilmot, Josh Coggan and Liam Griffin fighting over 3rd. This, though, is the real race now, isn't it, for the race victory in the Volkswagen Racing Cup. We're about to hit, in fact we just have hit the half race distance in this shortened 18-minute race. VW Cup competitors once again putting on a show. It's always been one of the most exciting one-make tin top championships in the country, and it looks as though 2020 is going to be absolutely no different. Josh Coggan there, who finished 2nd in race 1, running in 4th at the moment under pressure from Liam Griffin, but look at the pressure that Josh Coggan's teammate Richard Gilbert is under from Ollie Brown for the race lead. Over Clay Hill, past the water tower, into Druids they will go, and who is going to come out on top in this little battle? It looks as though the writing might be on the wall for Richard Gilbert, but Ollie Brown hasn't found a way through yet. Likewise, Liam Griffin hasn't got past Josh Coggan yet, so no change for now into the braking zone at Lodge, and Richard Gilbert is now starting to have to actively defend. It looks like the wide line into Lodge is going to work there for Ollie Brown, is it? No, can't get the speed over the hill, and so Richard Gilbert hanging on by his fingernails to the race lead here. Side by side for 4th, look in the background, Liam Griffin and Josh Coggan, but Coggan again not letting him through here without a fight. Out of Old Hall Corner then, look at the speed differential here. Ollie Brown is clearly quicker than Richard Gilbert, but he needs to realise that, and realise that he doesn't need to take a big risk here. He can afford to take his time. If he knows he's that much better than Gilbert, then he has to just sort of hang back and hope and assume that the move is going to happen, rather than forcing it, because if you start forcing it, that's when you can get yourself into trouble. Josh Coggan getting away from Liam Griffin again now in 4th and 5th positions. Head into the braking zone at the Shell hairpin. Lead battle, of course, as they start to hold each other up, that's possibly going to bring Andy Wilmot and Josh Coggan and Liam Griffin, and indeed Mark Wakefield, because he's back with them again. It could bring them all back into play, so this could still become a 6-way fight for the lead. Front of the field, by the way, in the TCT element of the race, I feel obliged to tell you that the gap is now coming down. For the first time this race, Henry Neal is quicker than Lewis Kent. It's still 3 seconds though, so we'll stick with this battle for now, because there's about 3 inches between the top 2 drivers in the VW Racing Cup, if that. Richard Gilbert almost getting a bit of a love tap there from behind as he went into the right-hander at Hislops, and again he's almost getting bump drafted up the hill. Side by side behind, look, Liam Griffin going around the outside of Josh Coggan. They make contact. Oh, Liam Griffin is sideways at Clay Hill. That is a really dangerous place to be making contact. Griffin, I think, managed to save that. Here's the, well, we might see a replay, we might see a car in the barriers. I think Griffin, with all of his years of experience, was able to save that slide, but that was just unnecessary contact really at one of the fastest parts of the track. There you go, you see. Well, Griffin left Coggan room, didn't he, really? It was Josh Coggan who just misjudged it, maybe, and got into the back of him. And Liam Griffin he's going backwards. He's almost 180 degrees to the direction of travel, and I think he did spin in the end, because there he is bouncing his way back on the road, but a long way down the order. He's going to be right towards the back, probably out of the top 10 now for the VW Racing Cup, and that's a shame for Liam on his well, welcome back to the championship, Liam. That's the kind of welcome that you get. I'm sure that he might have words with Josh Coggan after the race about that, but he lives to tell the tale, and thankfully no real damage done. Now, as I made the point earlier on, the gap was coming down between Lewis Kent and Henry Neal, albeit only by a tenth or so. It's now going back out again, because on the previous lap Lewis Kent was a full second quicker than Henry. None of the gaps really at the front of the field look likely to come down significantly for now, so again we can continue focusing on the VW Racing Cup and Richard Gilbert and Ollie Brown. Now Brown, you can see the witness mark on the front of his car. He's definitely been in the back of Coggan at least one or two times during this race. He seems to have laid off a bit now. He's just settled back. He knows he's not under as much pressure now from behind because obviously there was a contact between the drivers that were right behind them. So now he's not under pressure. Maybe time to just take a lap or so, cool the tyres off, cool himself off, and build up to another challenge. It's sometimes better to arrive on the tail of the car in front with a bit of momentum rather than just latching onto their rear bumper for lap after lap after lap, because then you just get stuck running at their speed when really you'd rather be going a little bit quicker. But if you can catch them by a few tenths of a second a lap and then immediately pounce, then it is a little bit easier sometimes to make the move stick. Druids. Gilbert gets a bit squirrely on the entry. He's out wide onto the wet side of the road, and this is definitely an opportunity now for Ollie Brown, because Richard Gilbert was slow off Druids corner, has to defend into Lodge corner. So Brown takes the wide line in, cuts back to the late apex, carries so much more speed off the corner. They're almost level, and they're going to make contact. They almost do as they go over Deer's Leap. But it is going to be still Richard Gilbert that hangs on to this advantage. He defended well from his teammate in race one. He's defending even better now from the team hard car of Ollie Brown in the second race. And as they disappeared from shot, they were as though maybe Ollie Brown was setting up for another move. Lewis Kent, though, still unchallenged out in front, 5.5 seconds clear of Henry Neal in second. I knew I'd try and call him Matt at one point today. Max Hart in third, fourth for Darryl Wilson, fifth for Tim Docker. No change in the order there. What is going on, though, in the VWs? I think we're about to find out, because they're heading down the Lakeside Straight. No, it's still Gilbert in front, despite the extra momentum that the second place car, Ollie Brown, was taking through Old Hall about 30 seconds or so ago. What battle this has been between the two of them. Lewis Kent coming through to start what will be his penultimate lap, I think. 2 more laps to go at the end of this one, because we have 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and he's lapping now underneath the 2-minute bracket. These are the quickest laps we've seen so far today. Look at the way that he's running on the wet side of the road, trying to cool those Dunlop wet tyres down. But he can sort of afford to take it easy, can't he? Henry Neal just hasn't had the pace to live with him, whereas in race one, Henry was definitely the quicker of the two. It seems that in the wet, Lewis has the edge. Right, back to the VW Racing Cup part of the race, and it does look as though Ollie Brown has the edge here, but he just can't get the track position. Wherever he wants to go, he's getting a face full of green VW Golf, and well, they're both in Golf, but of course it's the newer shape Golf of Richard Gilbert that already has one race win to his name today, wants to try and get a second if he can. Interestingly, whilst the TCT cars are going quite a bit slower now than they were earlier on, the leading VW drivers are spurring each other on to set actually the fastest laps that they've been running all day. So been that's sometimes the way when you're in a battle like this, you have no choice but to push hard and kind of forget about saving the tyres. So this is a fascinating scrap between the two. It doesn't look like Andy Wilmot's quite got the pace to challenge them right now. Across the line onto what will be their penultimate lap. Lewis Kent, though, is heading down into the Hislop chicane, already half a lap ahead of them. The Block Coin sponsored Hyundai i30M. But Lewis Kent hops over the curb, still pushing hard, as is his style. Doesn't matter how far ahead he is, he will always push. It's going to be, by the looks of it, his third ever race victory in the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy. He won both of the races at Croft last year, and that was really where his championship challenge started, because he didn't race in either of the races at the season opener at Oulton Park. So there was also a mechanical issue in testing. I believe it was some sort of an electrical misfire kind of problem, which unfortunately prevented him from running in the rest of the weekend, so he couldn't take part in the 2 races, lost a whole load of points, and that kind of is where his championship was derailed. But it then came well and truly back on track a month or so later at the Croft circuit up in the northeast. He heads on to the final lap of the race now, though, and Lewis Kent sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:55.387. Lewis Kent is really trying here, even though he is 9 seconds now clear of Henry Neal in second, third for Max Hart, fourth for Darryl Wilson, and Max Hart is catching Henry Neal actually now. He's still 5 seconds back, but he was nearly a full second quicker on that last lap, so it does look like the NGTC car with a bit more power. Remember that NGTC Civic of Henry Neal, maybe that's chewed up its front tyres a bit more than the TCR cars. Maybe that's something that Bryn Lucas can ask the drivers after the race, whether or not there was a difference there between the NGTC and TCR cars tyre wear wise. In the VW Cup, well, the dynamics changed again there, hasn't it? Because it looks looks like Ollie Brown has dropped back again from Richard Gilbert, almost into the clutches of Andy Wilmot. So far from being able to challenge for the win on this last lap, it looks like maybe Ollie Brown is going to have to settle for a second place. Lewis Kent, though, heads out of the Hislop chicane into Knickerbrook corner. Is he going to set another fastest lap, I wonder, here on the final lap of the race? It's definitely starting to dry up on that racing line. Bear in mind, we've still got 2 more races to go, so I think if it doesn't rain again, it might be a full dry line by the end of the day. That won't matter much to our Dunlop Touring Car Trophy competitors. This is their final lap of competition this weekend, and Lewis Kent has started his season in fine style. Didn't quite win the first race, but he is going to finish in the first position for race 2. He and Henry Neal then are going to be very close together in points as we leave Oulton Park. Across the start-finish line then will come Lewis Kent. It is a win for Hyundai. It's his 3rd victory in his TCT career. Flashes the headlights. He is a dominant victor here at Oulton Park. Henry Neal will come home, I presume, in 2nd, but I think, he's going to fend off Max Hart at the line. Henry Neal in 2nd. Max Hart comes through in 3rd. And Darrell Wilson in 4th position. So great driving there from all of them in tricky conditions. I know they weren't nose to tail throughout that race as we've seen in the past, but they were still really pushing hard. Certainly Lewis Kent. Henry Neal, by the way, setting a personal best lap on the last lap, so maybe he did have tyres left, maybe he just didn't have the speed to match Lewis in that one. Setting up to be a fascinating scrap between those two. And you know, I've always said that a lot is made of grid sizes and number of entries, but when you've got 2 or 3 drivers that are all pretty evenly matched, it doesn't really matter how many cars are on the grid, because you get great racing. And these 2 drivers here are very evenly matched within the VW Racing Cup. It is still absolutely nothing separating Richard Gilbert and Ollie Brown. Brown trying to chase down the JM Racing car, but he's not going to get there, I don't think. Out of Lodge Corner, over the hill once again, and Richard Gilbert is going to be a double race victory for him. He is the early championship leader then in the VW Racing Cup. Ollie Brown, though, with a really good drive there for 2nd place. Andy Wilmot 3rd, Mark Wakefield 4th, and Josh Coggan in 5th, who survived that skirmish he had with Liam Griffin. It is Liam brother Kieran who comes home actually 6th in class. Tony Prendergast 7th, Bradley Kent will be 8th, Paul de Hadre 9th, and Liam Griffin 10th after that spectacular spin up through the top of Clay Hill. So the field, I think, has more or less cycled through just the last couple of the VWs. Liam Griffin got past Paul de Hadre actually, so he gets 9th place on the last lap, but all of the accolades really go to Lewis Kent. He is your winner in the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy. Henry Neal in 2nd, Max Hart 3rd, Darrell Wilson is 4th, and Tim Docker rounds out the 5 Dunlop Touring Car Trophy finishers. Sadly, we didn't see much of Dan Kirby. He managed the first few laps, but first couple of laps in fact, but then retired into the pit lane. Then the VW Cup cars in behind. That race, of course, was won by Richard Gilbert. That was a much tighter affair, and you know, the top 6 drivers in the VW Cup actually all set personal bests on the last lap, so entertaining stuff amongst the VW entrants, and they were all pushing hard right down to the end. But a very happy Essex and Kent Motorsport squad are gathering, not too close to each other, you'll understand, but they're all gathering down at the end of the pit lane, and they are ready to welcome their driver Lewis Kent back for another race victory in the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy. This is your VW result. Richard Gilbert with the win, Ollie Brown 2nd, Andy Wilmot 3rd, Josh Coggan 4th, Liam Griffin 5th, Mark Wakefield 6th, Kieran Griffin 7th, and Tony Prendergast rounding out the top 8 finishers. So good stuff there in the VWs. In the Touring Car Trophy, it was a little bit more sedate, perhaps a bit more predictable maybe, but the tricky conditions out there, I think definitely tyre wear was on a lot of drivers' minds. The field of Touring Car Trophy drivers did rather spread out by the end of the race. So the field then makes its way into the pit lane. I can see out of my window Lewis Kent is getting out of his Hyundai and is about to hopefully have a chat with Bryn Lucas. Should be there ready and waiting to receive him. And Lewis Kent starting off his season in fine fashion. So in come the top 3 drivers. And with a bit of luck, we will be able to hear from Bryn down in the pit lane. So just waiting, I think, for the drivers to de-helmet, get their face masks on, etc. A few pre-interview the pre-interview routine, as the whole race weekend routine really has changed now. But you know, it's better to deal with changes to the routine than not be here at all. That's for sure. And we're all very grateful to be back at the racetrack once again. Don't forget, 2 more races coming your way today, by the way, as well. The Hyperdrive STXR Challenge is up next, and then we round the day off with the Buildtech Civic Cup. So 2 more races to go, and we should get them both in. Actually, I think we're running ahead of time now, dare I say it. Yeah, next race was due to start in about 5 minutes time, so well, we're on time maybe rather than ahead of time, but I'll take that. In fact, we had a couple of red flags and delays earlier on in the day. So the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy then off to a fine start in 2020. And we will watch with interest this battle between Lewis Kent and Henry Neal as the season goes on. And it's going to be a fascinating battle, actually, to see the two different classes, or 2 different types of car, essentially, the NGTC against the TCR. That's a really interesting combination. They do definitely have different strengths and weaknesses. The NGTC cars with their better brakes have a little bit more grip maybe, but the TCR cars, especially that Hyundai, which is known for being very quick in a straight line, they do have good power, and they're able to definitely compete with those cars as they various circuits around the country. Some of them are going to have maybe a slightly stronger chance of taking race victories, but the wet weather conditions here at Oulton Park, I think, throwing a spanner in the works in general, and most of them just grateful really to get the season underway relatively unscathed. I had a couple of moments. Max Hart went off in qualifying earlier on this morning. Darryl Wilson had his moment, of course, at the Island Bend, or Shell Hairpin I should say, in the earlier race. But race 2 passed pretty much instant free in the Touring Car Trophy. The same can't be said for the VWs, where Jeff Oulton really did get a faceful of foam barrier down at the Hislop chicane.
We have an offer already by me. We have an offer already by me.
Well, apologies for any delay in commentary and starting there for a second. We had one or two technical glitches in the system, but we've managed to get things underway with the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge 4 race number 2. And it is William Heslop who leads the way from Mark Robinson in second place, and Greg Spate, who leads Class A, is also in the mix and holding on to third position at the moment. So Mark Robinson looking ahead of Robinson in second place. It's Spate in third, Grimes fourth, Roberts fifth. Again, apologies if we've had any delays in getting things started here. Looks like we've got an issue for one of the slower cars in the field, but Scott Woodward's here covering the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge. Again, apologies for any delays or any glitches in the system that's caused us a bit of a late start. But it was from the front row. We had William Heslop and Mark Robinson together, and it was Heslop that led the way through the opening corners, and does so after a lap and a half of racing at a 1.8 second advantage by the end of the first lap, and now he's trying to extend that even further. So we're just seeing here Lee Bowron, car number 62. Lee currently running in 10th position as he chases down Alec Townley, one of our newcomers in Class D. They head up over the crest of Hilltop, and Barron's got a slightly better exit. There are the leaders, Heslop from Robinson, then from Greg Spate, who leads Class A, then Justin Roberts from Sam Beckett, Chris Rowlands, he's just ahead of Tony Mumford, the ex-pickup racing racer. Then we've got Lee Bowron and Alec Townley in the mix now, and they too are scrapping. So Bowron has got past Townley. That's the move stuck for 9th position. You see Jason Hennifer in 11th place, 12th place for Paul McHugh. And as for, looks like Chris Jones is back in 17th, so not a good start for him in the opening couple of laps here. And he's trying to pick his way back through the order as much as possible. So they wind their way through the top of Clay Hill towards Druids. And here is some developing scraps here between the Class D Fiesta ST 150s. This battle developing here is Bowron catching up to the tail of both Tony Mumford and the white and blue car. Just ahead of him, the red and white machine with the gold striping, like the Gold Lead Lotus Formula 1 cars. So now they go to end lap number 2. It's Heslop now in the lead by 1.2 seconds because Robertson puts in the fastest lap of the race. He's not flying that, he's actually put by 0.6 of a second. There is the top two heading down Cascades at the bottom of the hill, down the avenue. There was Spate in third position. Here's the scrap for fourth between Justin Roberts and the blue and white car with RJ Day plastered on the side. And then the silver car with the black and yellow flashes. That is Sam Beckett. He's having a brilliant first weekend here. I think he's the top new driver in the field in this race. And he's giving Justin Roberts, who is a very experienced hand in the XR Challenge, definitely giving him a good run for his money. Speaking of runs, good run here for Lee Bowron as he makes his way past Tony Mumford. His next target is going to be getting past Chris Rowlands. That will now put Lee into 7th position. He's chasing up after 6th. So he really is making up quite a lot of ground here as he heads through. And he's one of a number of drivers who've been in the championship for a while, but they've switched across to the Class D STs for the first time. And they're certainly loving life in there. And Lee's teammate and sibling Lewis is back in 13th place as he holds on. So STs ablaze as they head down into Hislops and then Knickerbrook. There is Roberts, followed by Beckett as they turn their way through the right-hander at Knickerbrook. There is Greg Spate in the black and red Class A XR2. Doing a fantastic job in third place, and it was the case last year when there were more Class A cars in the field that the likes of William Heslop is in the mix. And here's some more XR2s in here. They're having a great battle here. I saw Darren Watson was in there, and that was a battle that was going on between towards the back. I think it was Poole in the mix as well as Watson, Spencer and Rudge. They were all at it towards the back of the field. Down into the right-hander at Lodge. And then up towards out of Deer Leap and over the crest towards Old Hall Corner to end another lap. So Heslop leads the way now by 1.5 seconds. He steals the fastest lap back again. 2 minutes 7.810. 2/10 quicker than Robinson. We stay on this battle here between Roberts and Beckett. This is for the final podium spot in Class D. won't be a podium spot overall unless they can start to close in on and catch Greg Spate, who currently heads Class A at a canter. He's far and away the quickest car on the field in that class. You'd have to say, given his performances last time, he will certainly be a favourite. There is Greg, long-time runner in the championship. With a different sponsor last year, but he's with a new one this year. He's been able to change the livery accordingly. The base car's still black, but the accents around the bumpers and the wheel arches is from green to red this time. This battle continues to hot up between Roberts and Beckett as they shoot out of shot. As for 6th position, Lee Barron has got past Chris Rowlands. So that's another place picked off. Look at his lap times as we focus on Tony Mumford. Lee Barron's last lap was a 2-minute 10.029. He's lapping on the same pace, roughly, as the 2 cars in front. So his last lap was a 2 minutes 11. So he's going to try and use the clear air. Just saw Paul Green there, and the green-coloured XR2 is pulled off to the side. So sadly, he is out of the race. As the leaders make their way down the hill, this is a scrap for, looks like that is 9th place between Alec Townley in his ST and the leading Class B car, of which there are only 2. Jason Hennifer's in one of them, and he's got for company just behind him. That is Lewis Barron in the silver ST with the black bonnet. Over the crest, under the bridge at Clay Hill, and you can see the circuit has considerably dried up a lot more than it had been earlier on. There are still some damp patches out there. It's better conditions than they found in the race earlier on. And I suspect that maybe it was a setup change that has given Heslop a bit more of an advantage. And that advantage was clear for a moment because he had the fastest lap of the race of a 2 minutes 7.5, going to be bettered by Robinson. As we continue to focus on this battle now for 9th, 10th and 11th. So it's actually Paul McHugh, forgive me. Paul McHugh in the silver car behind. And he's now possibly going to get himself into the top 10. There's Lee Barron, followed by Chris Rowlands, then Tony Mumford. So he's driven all sorts of different race cars, but he finds himself in one of the Fiesta STs currently here in 2020. And there's Paul McHugh, doing double duty today because he's also competing in the Civic Cup, so he's got a double dose of front-wheel drive racing action. Down the avenue, over the crest and into Cascades once again. It's good to see in the right hands that some of the older cars can certainly keep up with the more contemporary machinery. It's a brilliant thing to see that the STs have reinvigorated the championship very much. It's good to see that over half the grid has got these ST150s in place. But if you're quick enough, one of these older cars like the XR3 Escorts or the XR2 Fiestas can definitely do the trick if driven properly. Tony Mumford turns his way out the shell oils. He's falling away from Chris Rowlands and into the clutches of this 3-way scrap for 9th place, with Alec Townley now certainly getting a blaze of glory in terms of being thrown in at the deep end, because he's really being put under pressure by the last year's Class B champion, if I've got my stats correct. And he's showcasing that now because he's starting to draw alongside. Is he going to go a little deeper on the brakes? I think arguably the Fiesta will have slightly better brakes heading into Hislops. Proves to be the case on this occasion. It's not long to go. There's only 3.5 minutes left until we get to the end of this race. Over through Clay Hill. And now as they make their way down towards the end of the race. There's about 3 minutes to go now in this second race. Still Heslop from Robinson, but the gap has come down to less than a second. It's less than 6/10 now. New fastest lap from Robinson. He took 7/10 out of Heslop that last time by. And Spate, meanwhile, let's look at him. Well, he did a 2 minute 10.1 last time by, but Roberts and co are definitely lapping faster in the 2 minutes 9. So that 3-way battle for 4th place is certainly closing into what could become a 4-way scrap for 3rd. And now as they turn through Island Bend and into Shell Oils, should be quite key. Leaders turning out of Britain's over the crest. I think that's Paul Green watching to the left-hand side, getting a great view of this battle. Now, Mark Robinson would love to make this 2 out of 2, but Heslop, who is the defending champion both in Class A and overall, would love to pick up his first ST victory, but he's going to have to do it by defending from the Race 1 winner. And I suspect that the setup that he's got underneath it possibly seems as though that maybe Heslop's car struggles in the second half of the race, because we saw this in Race 1. Despite the spin that he had in Race 1 in the less than ideal conditions, Robinson's car was quicker in the second part of the race, and maybe that might come together. They'll come into view any second now, and Heslop has got Robinson all over his tail as he comes into Druid's corner. They've got just one more lap to go when they cross the line. My timing screen says about 1 minute 20 to go, so this will be quite intriguing. I've been quite intrigued to see what the battle of a third is looking like, because I suspect that Spate may well have been caught pretty quickly, particularly on this lap. They come over Dearly to start the last lap of the race, of this second of 2 races here for the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge. Last lap board goes out, and both drivers get the encouragement from the pit wall. Come on, go after it. Turning into Oulton corner, Heslop has the advantage. Robinson in second place, slightly wider on the exit. Last lap board goes out, and down the hill towards Cascades, and Robinson is really looking in attack mode here. He's got the headlights on, he's closing in under braking. There's a real sense that he might go for a last gasp move here on this final lap of the second race of the weekend. The run towards Island Bend, still nose to tail. Heslop has got enough grip in him just at the moment in those Yokohama tyres to keep Robinson at bay, but can he do it for the remainder of the lap? Into Shell Oils. Through the banked 180, fire it out the other side and grab another gear, and still Heslop has the advantage. Back towards Britons, under brakes. Robinson still keeping close. They hop over the curbs, left, right, then left again, rocking the suspension as they head up towards Hilltop. Robinson will have a small tow. Is there a chance here that he might possibly try and close in? He's pretty strong in the second half of the lap. He closes back in under braking. Turns right, left. Still Heslop has the run. There's someone's bumper there on the right-hand side at the edge of the track, but isn't really affecting anyone on the racing line. Robinson keeping up the pursuit, but defending champion Heslop showing why he is just that, the 2019 champion. He's absorbing all of this pressure with only just 2 or 3 corners to go. Out of Clay Hill towards Druids. Is Robinson going to think about a move into Lodge? Well, he's not going to do it here with 2 corners to go. Heslop has got a good run here as he exits Druids underneath the bridge and towards Lodge. There's only one more chance to go here. Heslop takes the line. He thinks he's comfortable. Up through Lodge corner and up towards Dearly for the final time. Robinson has pressed him for the entire race, but it's going to be a win. First win of the season and a first win in the new ST for William Heslop. The defending champion picks up P1 in race 2 of the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge. It's second place for Mark Robinson. The finishing margin, 0.361 of a second. And Robinson actually set the fastest lap of the race with a 2 minute 6.852 on one of the previous laps. For third place and Class A victory, it is Greg Spate, followed by Sam Beckett, who did pass Justin Roberts in the closing stages. Sixth place and a great drive through the field in the opening laps from Lee Barron. He picks up a good finish as his just rewards. Next up should be 7th place for Chris Rowlands in the red and white car. He's followed home by Tony Mumford, so Mumford managed to close in towards the end. Then we've got a change, I think, for 9th, 10th, 11th, because Townley is 9th, but it's Paul McHugh who gets past Class B winner Jason Hennifer. And then we've got Matt Spencer. He's been a little quiet today, the reigning Class D champion, but he might have a little more competition this year. Through goes Chris Jones with a little bit less bodywork on the front bumper. There is your race winner, William Heslop. Picks up where he left off. 2019 champion last year. And now he's hoping to not only go for the Class D title, he would love to pick up a second title in a row. He's also a Porsche racer as well. But I think given his success in this championship, he might possibly favour Fords a bit more after this one. Across the line goes Darren Watson. With half the door open. He knew he's warm or he's going to wave to the marshals, but he firmly slams it shut. A few more of our Class A XR2s across the line. The only car that we don't have finishing appears to be Steve Poole. There goes Adam Bissell. Brilliant looking car for Adam Bissell. Good to see him in the mix. And Michael Rudge, it's his debut in the championship. Good to see him on the grid. He was able to get to the finish in both races, and that's the key thing. Everyone's got to start somewhere, and he managed to make it happen. So an exciting first weekend for the Hyperdrive STXR Challenge, and in the end, it all comes down to a split of victories between Mark Robinson and William Heslop. Although actually, now I say that, forgive me, I think Heslop's had a penalty of some kind. Yeah, 10-second time penalty for William Heslop. Forgive me, it only just flashed up on my screen, on my timing screen here. So actually, it's a double win for Mark Robinson. Heslop wins on the road, but I've just spotted on my timing screen that it's changed because there's an exclamation mark next to William Heslop. So it's Robinson that gets the victory. He takes 2 wins from the opening weekend. Heslop then has to settle for 2nd place again. And it's 3rd place for Greg Spate, with 4th for Sam Beckett, 5th for Justin Roberts, and then it's Lee Barron, Chris Rowlands, Tony Mumford, Alec Townley and Jason Hennifer. Just to confirm class winners, Mark Robinson in fact then gets the Class D victory. Class A win goes to Greg Spate, and Class B will go to Jason Hennifer, finished 11th overall. So an excellent job. We've still got a couple more races left to come here this afternoon to round off our day's action. And our STXRs head through. They'll be heading off next to Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire, along with a few other championships that are competing here this afternoon at Oulton Park. I know the drivers are relishing the chance to go to the mini Nürburgring in Lincolnshire. And after that, they'll be heading off for a few more familiar rounds throughout the rest of the season. They'll make a trip to Anglesey. I believe they're also going to Silverstone. And then they'll be heading, I think their final round will be back here at Oulton Park in October, which is good. We've got one more race to come up. It is the 2nd race of the day and the final race of the day for the Miltech Sports Civic Cup. It was quite eventful, but here's quickly a run through the top 8 of race number 2. So after that 10-second penalty, it's Mark Robinson then who picks up the win in the results. And he finishes ahead of the man who won on the road before the time penalty, William Heslop. Greg Spate, he gets 3rd place and wins Class A. Sam Beckett 4th, Justin Roberts 5th, then Lee Barron, Chris Rowlands and Tony Mumford. Well, that's all from me on the microphone. My name's Scott Woodwist. Thank you so much for everyone who's been watching today. One more race in the very capable hands of Andy McEwen. So for myself, I shall sign out and hand back over to Andy very shortly as we get the grid together for our final race of the day, the 2nd of which for the Miltech Civic Cup. So enjoy that, and Andy will be back with you in a few moments' time.
Welcome back then to our final race of the day here at Oulton Park, and the cars heading out onto the circuit now for the second Miltech Sport Civic Cup race of the day. And the first one earlier on was dramatic, to say the least, and the second one, albeit in slightly dry conditions now, hopefully will be equally as exciting, although with slightly less barrel rolling of Honda Civics. That would be nice. We had a rather nasty accident for Andrew Gorgler, from which he emerged unscathed, but it was a spectacular roll down at Cascades that put our race leader at the time, albeit only a quarter and a half into the race, into the barriers and upside down. But the race restarted and was eventually won by Bruce Winfield. We now, though, have a reversed grid for this race, and reverse grid races at the end of the day are always pretty eventful in my experience. So, yeah, looking forward to this one. Should be a very, very entertaining race, and it's going to be a 14-minute race. They've knocked just 1 minute off the total distance of the race. So the grid then did just flash through your screen, but it's Oliver Barsby on pole, Bradley Lane second, Ross Darlington, Max Lewis sharing row number 2. They had a pretty fierce battle in the previous race. Then Morgan Bailey and David Buki with Jamie Tonks and Alistair Camp next up. Then now this is interesting actually, I'm going to say our top 2 from the previous race, but Paul Taylor is there 9th and Sam Barrett in 10th. Now it looks as though Bruce Winfield has been put to the back of the grid, so just very quickly bringing up the official race 1 results. Yeah, he's still classified as the winner, so I'm not quite sure why he's been... 5 place grid penalty, there we go. So this, I'm guessing, is for the contact that he had with Andrew Gorgler. So Bruce Winfield then will start towards the back, and another driver in strife possibly here is this 155 Sam Barrett, who was due to start 10th. Car appears to have lost all power heading through Druid's corner at the top of the track, and this might lead to that dreaded thing of a delayed start unless he can get the car. There is those Tech Pro barriers up there on the inside at Druid's. Has he got the power to get it forward onto the grass? Possibly, not entirely sure. Still trying to get the car out of the way, and the 155 car, unfortunately, isn't going to be taking any further part, or isn't going to be taking any part in the race. The question is whether it gets out of the way in time for a race start. Hopefully it will. Hopefully we'll be able to get this race underway. But I can see out of my window that there is a marshal on the starting gantry with a start delayed board prepared, albeit not displayed yet. Still the decision hasn't been made, it would seem, but hopefully we will get the race going before much longer. You can see the grid hasn't actually formed yet. Circuit definitely drying out now. It hasn't rained for a good couple of hours, and as a result that means that the start delayed board I can see has just gone out, so they're going to delay the start, and possibly that will mean that there has to be another green flag lap, which is not ideal. So start delayed, and this as a result of the Sam Barrett car that stuck out on track. Oliver Barsby though and Bradley Lane, well, Bradley Lane was pretty racy in the first encounter, but as I was about to make the point, the track conditions are a little bit different now. It's still not dry, it's kind of greasy and getting towards a bit dry, but offline it's still quite damp, and that will make the first lap pretty lively, and also any attempt to overtake will be a bit of a voyage into the unknown, because you're going to have to go off that dry racing line in order to find your way past people, basically. And this being a reverse grid race, there are quite a few people further down the order that want to get past people, so this is going to be a pretty eventful race, I think, to end the day. Wait and see whether or not we end up getting it shortened again. The race, I believe, is due to start in about 5 minutes, they're saying, so, or just under 5 minutes, so we know we should be okay. We've got to have all on-track activity ceased by 6:30 local time, and it is currently about 6 or 7 minutes past, so we should have time to get the 14 minutes in, even if they send the cars out onto a second green flag lap, which they quite possibly will. It's always an issue when a car breaks down on the green flag lap, because you have less time than normal to get it cleared before the race gets underway. But interesting race in prospect here. Early stages in the championship, of course. This is the first BRSCC race meeting of the season, and so for all of these championships it's the opening rounds of the year, and I'm sure they're all very, very happy to be back at it eventually. It's been a long, at least not in the next 30 seconds or so. But yeah, early stages of the championships, the drivers looking to try and start off their 2020 campaign in style, and that is what Bruce Winfield was able to do. It looks as though they've gone with a grid penalty for the second race for him then, rather than a positional penalty for the contact in the previous race. We didn't actually see the point of contact, but we saw the result of it. They were both on the grass, and Andrew Gorgler ending up upside down. I'm pretty sure Gorgler will be a non-starter for this second race. He is listed on the grid as 17th, but I don't think the number 25 car is out there. If it is, that's a Herculean effort from the pit crew. Right, there we go. Now Sam Barrett's car has moved out of the way. A second green flag lap has begun. We haven't altered the race length though, because obviously we should still have time to get this race in its full duration. It was only supposed to be 15 minutes, they made a minute off, which again in the grand scheme of things won't make all that much difference. So so through goes the field. Then there you can see some of the front runners from the previous race. So as well as this sort of standard reverse grid dynamic with some of the quick drivers coming from mid-grid, you've also got Bruce Winfield coming from right towards the back of the grid. That 5-place grid penalty, of course, is applied on top of the grid reversal. So he was going to start 10th because he won the race and the top 10 are reversed. He will actually start 15th, and that will obviously give him an extra few people to pass. It also puts him right in the danger zone at the start of the race. It's going to be a pretty busy run through the first few corners for Bruce, and of course he'll really want to avoid any further contact like he had in the previous race. And I'm sure Bruce has been to speak to Andrew as well, and they've managed to hopefully find some common ground over what happened. And this is racing after all, and as we've said earlier on today, that this is the first race meeting for these drivers for a long time, certainly a much longer off season than they were expecting and than they're used to, so maybe not quite as familiar with the extremities of their cars as they have been in the past. So it's not been quite the summery weather here in Oulton Park that we'd hoped for, has it? But the Cheshire scenery still looks just as scenic as ever, and the track looks fairly dry now, doesn't it? Down the run from the top of Hilltop down into Hislop. It's a bit damp offline, but that part of the circuit, of course, a bit more open to the elements than the rest, so I suppose it would dry out quicker, but yeah, by the end of the race they're going to be down to full dry lap times, you'd have to imagine. It's not been cold today at Oulton, that has been helpful. It's been fairly mild, but just very, very wet, and we got to a point earlier on today where it looked as though it was going to dry out, and then it didn't. It got wetter and wetter again, so yeah, the conditions, as ever in British summertime, are a talking point. Good to see that some of the hardy spectators have stuck around to the end of the day, and I hope they've enjoyed their first visit, or perhaps their first visit, certainly one of their first visits back to the racetrack in 2020. Hopefully this is a sign of more normality to come in the coming months. So hopefully everyone's going to get round to the grid this time. No more last minute breakdowns. Oliver Barsby and Bradley Lane on the front row together, with Ross Darlington and Max Lewis sharing that second row. There you can see the white and blue car of David Buki with the pink wing mirrors, car number 51. Very very popular character in the paddock. Character being the operative word, I think, but then you get a lot of people like that in the Civic Club. It does seem to attract some very loud and bubbly people, which is just how we like it, because that's probably a decent way of describing the racing as well. Very loud, lots of action, and this the driest that the track's been all day hopefully should produce some really top quality tin top racing. So last couple of rows then almost in position. I can see the 66 car of Ben Mills, who was in the gravel earlier on, and the orange car further back of Bruce Winfield. You can see green flag then is waved at the back of the grid. The final race of the day here from Oulton Park about to get underway. The Miltech Sports Civic Cup with Oliver Barsby and Bradley Lane sharing row number 1. Lights go on, revs start to rise, lights go out, away they go. Good start made by Max Lewis by the looks of it from the outside of row number 2, and Max Lewis might be able to challenge for the race lead down towards turn number 1. There he is, the blue and pink car on the outside line, gets his nose ahead. Can he turn into the corner? I think he can, and Max Lewis gets the lead away. Up the inside goes Morgan Bailey. He was making some really good moves in the latter stages of race number 1. Oh, sideways, off into the grass, almost into the barriers goes Oliver Barsby, and the man that started on pole position, can we see here, well, he's already out of shape as he comes through the corner. Very, very lucky not to hit the barriers. Did a good job there, but he is stranded, and that is the man that started on the pole position. Oliver Barsby, sadly, doesn't even make it out of the first corner before things go wrong. So, looks as though Max Lewis from 4th on the grid had managed to get the lead away from the front row drivers going into the first corner. And as we wait for the lead pack to appear over hilltop, it is going to be, well, a guessing game, I suppose, to see who appears in first position. And will it be Max Lewis? He got a good start. So down the hill into Hislop's we go, and all move being made up the inside. Well, that was a brilliant move there from Morgan Bailey. So Morgan Bailey goes second ahead of Bradley Lane. Max Lewis then leads, Bailey second, Lane in third. And then we wait for, 4th place Alistair Camp, and 5th, I think, is going to be Ross Darlington, isn't it? Ross Darlington, yeah, in 5th position. Good start made by Ben Mills. He's really gained some positions there on the first half a lap or so. And is it starting to rain? It looks a bit damp and greasy. There's Dave Bookie. Dave Bookie's had a moment somewhere at the far side of the track. And as they head out of sight, we are waiting to see there is the recovering number 10 of Oliver Barsby. So the race leaders then head down the back straight and into Island Bend, and there is Morgan Bailey. So Morgan Bailey is running in the lead now. He's found a way ahead of Max Lewis. Apologies, by the way, I believe we're having a few technical issues. The rain just creeping into a few of our systems here in Oulton Park, so we are back with it now though, and Morgan Bailey leads them out of Shell. 2nd place is Max Lewis, 3rd place for Bradley Lane. Alistair Camp 4th. Look at the amount of curb they're using. They were using plenty of curb in the wet. They're using even more now in the dry conditions. Over hilltop, down the hill. Looks like Morgan Bailey is getting away now from Max Harty in 2nd. He's under a bit of pressure. Not really seeing much progress here though from our front runners in race 1, are we? Paul Taylor 2nd place in race 1, he's only 8th, so he's gained 1 position. That of course was at the expense of Oliver Barsby after his spin earlier on. Bruce Winfield though has gained ground. You can see him there, the orange and black car going up the hill. He is in 9th position, or he was at the start of the race. He may have even got himself ahead of Paul Taylor on this lap. We'll get confirmation of that when they come back through to the end of the lap. But there are your leading trio then heading through Druids. The battle really on for 2nd, Max Lewis and Bradley Lane, and Lane is all over the back of the blue and orange car as it heads out of Druids under the Paul Warwick Bridge towards Lodge Corner. Looks to the inside, looks to the outside, can't quite get through there, and they come back across the start finish line. It is a train of Civics really fighting. Oh, fastest lap there for Jamie Tonks back in the pack. There he is, the white and red car, even going up the inside. They're 3 abreast into Oulton. What a move from Jamie Tonks. I'll tell you what, there's contact on the exit. That almost went wrong, but that was a brilliant bit of racecraft there for Jamie Tonks. Someone in only his 2nd ever motor race. He's done lots of track days, but no actual racing. You'd never know it. That was a 3-wide move up the inside of Ross Darlington and Ben Mills. Bit of contact with Ben Mills on the exit of the corner, but they just about avoided significant contact. And the battling is pretty intense out there. Windscreen wipers on there for Bradley Lane in third, so it does look as though the rain has made a return, but it's not stopping him having a go at getting up the inside of Max Lewis. Too far back though into the Shell hairpin, and as they come out of the right-hander, it's still the same order. Alistair Camp there in fourth, but Jamie Tonks, that white and red car, is on a flyer into fifth position now then. Having gained a couple of places obviously at the start of this lap. He crossed the line seventh, but he was fifth by the time they got out of the first corner. Can he escape? Well, Bruce Winfield is now behind him, so maybe the answer is no. Bruce won the first race, but then copped that 5-place grid penalty for race number 2. And as this train heads into the Hislop chicane once again, this is the third lap of the race. We've got 8.5 minutes still to go, and this is proper Civic Cup racing. The first, I think we can call this a dry race now. First dry race of the day, and it is producing some of the best action we've seen all day long here at Oulton Park, although that drizzle just continues to linger in the air, certainly out at the far end of the circuit.
So I think not getting back to. Sorry, you said we do this? No.
Well, apologies everyone. As I say, we've had a few technical gremlins creeping in here at the end of the day. I think the inclement weather we've suffered here at Oulton Park has had something to do with that, but we can get back to the racing now with just under 6 minutes to go in this Miltech Sports Civic Cup race. It is Morgan Bailey who continues to lead the way, but look at how close it's getting at the front of the field now. This is the lead pack of cars. Bailey leads the way, second for Max Lewis, third for Bradley Lane, fourth Alistair Camp, fifth is Bruce Winfield, now ahead. In fact, he's brought Ben Mills with him. They've both got themselves ahead of Jamie Tonks on that previous lap, and then Paul Taylor in 8th position. As up the inside goes Alistair Camp ahead of Bradley Lane, that's for 3rd place, brings with him Bruce Winfield as well, and I think that could be the last that we see of Bradley Lane in this lead group, because through also goes Ben Mills, and I don't think that Jamie Tonks and Paul Taylor will be far behind. Yep, there goes Tonks up the inside. Taylor gets to the inside as well through Ireland, but that puts him on the outside line now into the Shell hairpin. He'll be late on the brakes. He can go right around the outside of Bradley Lane. He can't, but he might be able to get a cutback on the exit maybe and get up the inside. Bruce Winfield trying to get past Alistair Camp as well. So this is now for 3rd position. Top 2 up the road there. You can see Morgan Bailey and Max Lewis, but I think Bruce Winfield can sense a chance for a race victory here, because he's clearly got the pace and he's got time as long as he makes swift progress past Alistair Camp. Camp is probably, of the 3 cars in front of Winfield, the quickest, so that's the one that Bruce needs to get past pretty sharpish. Rain starting to move in even over here on the pit straight now, so the track is going to start getting greasy. That could start catching people out a little bit, and again it kind of falls then to those with the most experience. They're going to be the most at home in these in-between and ever-changing conditions. So Up towards Druids goes the pack once more. This is the 5th lap of race. We've got time for another couple of laps after this one, I think. And Bruce Winfield there, windscreen wipers on for most of the cars. Not everyone choosing to run the windscreens at the moment, though. It's not heavy rain, it's just a lingering drizzle. And that's not the right way through the chicane. That's the number 9 car of Paul McHugh there, taking an interesting approach to the Hislop chicane. I'm not quite sure how he ended up there, but he's got going again. Lead us through and look at the damp. They're starting to cut grooves now through the grease on the track. However, the battling continuing there. Jamie Tonks has, well, that's Bradley Lane going back through. So Lane back up now into what position does that put him into now? I think that is 6th place. I don't think this is the last lap. We've still got 3.5 minutes to go. And that means that Bruce Winfield should still have time. Oh no, the last lap board has gone out, so they've thrown the last lap board out early, I guess, because of the inclement weather. So that is going to save, I think, Morgan Bailey and Max Lewis from the onslaught from Bruce Winfield behind. Winfield could still get onto the podium though, which from 15th on the grid would not be bad going. Morgan Bailey, sorry, looks as though he is going to be able to get a race victory here as long as he doesn't make any mistakes over the final lap. Still Alistair Camp is 3rd ahead of Bruce Winfield. Through the British chicane they go. Ben Mills is 5th. Jamie Tonks 6th now, with Paul Taylor 7th. So they got back ahead of Bradley Lane on the previous lap then. Down the hill, oh, and look at that, Bruce Winfield's up the inside of Alistair Camp for 3rd place. They're banging wing mirrors as they go into the chicane, and who's going to get into the corner ahead? It is Winfield. Winfield's gone through, so later on the brakes, he got a good exit from Britain as well. I think he got up the inside. Bruce Winfield gets himself ahead of his fellow Area Motorsport teammate. Area Motorsport, as I think I said in race 1, running about half the grid in the Miltech Sports Civic Cup these days, and they have cars running in multiple positions inside the top 5, but it is not an Area Motorsport car that leads, because that is Morgan Bailey who's got the advantage, makes his way through Druids for what we now know to be the final time, and into Lodge Corner they go. Bruce Winfield, will he be able to hang on from Alistair Camp here? I wonder. Camp's having another go at the inside actually into Lodge Corner, but Winfield gets in just about in front. Checkered flag though is waved, and the race winner will be Morgan Bailey, and Morgan Bailey does now take the checkered flag, and 2nd place goes the way of Max Lewis. Bruce Winfield is 3rd, Alistair Camp is 4th, with Ben Mills in 5th. 6th place for Jamie Tonks with a fighting drive there, probably my driver of the day to be honest, and fastest lap for Dave Buki early on the previous lap as well. He ends up all the way down in 10th, so a few drivers there performing well, albeit a little further down the field. But brilliant job there from Morgan Bailey. Morgan gets himself the race win, and Bailey of course started the race from 5th on the grid, so he didn't really benefit from that reverse grid, did he? He finished 6th in the previous race, and he started 5th for this one with the reversed grid, but that didn't exactly put him on the front row, did it? Indeed, Oliver Barsby and Bradley Lane are front row sitters, while Barsby ended up in retirement, I believe, or after a spin and a pit lane visit, a couple of laps down at least. And as for Bradley Lane, where did he come in the end? Well, he was 6th, so he did salvage a decent result, but yeah, not quite the results they would have been hoping for, I'm sure, from the front row of the grid. But it is Morgan Bailey who gets the race win. Max Lewis in 2nd, 3rd Bruce Winfield, 4th Alistair Camp, and 5th for Ben Mills. And that concludes the racing action here from Oulton Park, but we've still got a chance to hear from our top 3 finishers. And as the conditions ever worse, and poor old Bryn Lucas has got to go out into the pit lane and brave the weather again, just one more time, Bryn, to get the interviews at the end of the day. But a really good day of racing. It's just been nice to get back to racing, hasn't it, really? And I suppose, as is kind of expected, there have been a few issues and a few technical gremlins with our live stream, which we apologise for, but unfortunately technical gremlins do tend to strike at the worst times, and after the prolonged off season that we've had, it's just been nice to get back to racing. It's nice to get cars back on track, nice to get spectators back to the track as well, and allow them to revel in the sport that they love, and that is exactly what they've been able to do, despite the fact that they've got pretty drenched as the day has gone on. So, but they're a hardy bunch, our British motorsport fans. They're well used to dealing with wet weather conditions, and as are the drivers, in fairness. That's why on an international level, a lot of British drivers do tend to be among the best when it comes to wet and changeable conditions, because we do, contrary to popular belief, get the old wet race over here in the United Kingdom. So, drivers heading into the pit lane, and as soon as the drivers are out of the cars, we will be able to hear from Bryn Lucas. Gives me a chance just to give one more thank you to the marshals, who have done a brilliant job out there. As I said earlier on, it's conditions like these that really make me glad that I'm a commentator, not a marshal, because they are out there in all weathers. They're not just out on post, but they have to be on red alert as well, waiting for any possible incidents to happen. And the second that something does happen, even if they're frozen, drenched, and wishing they were at home in bed with a hot cup of cocoa, they still head out there and do the best job that they can, and allow us to go motor racing. So thank you to the marshals, thanks to everyone indeed at the BRSCC for putting this event on, all of the officials up in race control, and everyone, all of the championship coordinators as well. We've seen some really good racing and some big grids, high quality grids as well. You know, the Compact Cup, 35 cars, we had 35 Formula Fords, and probably the highest quality national Formula Ford championship that we've had in over a decade easily, and I think that's setting up to be a really, really exciting season. The Civic Cup has provided lots of thrills and spills as well. The Caterham Academy bunch of drivers having their first ever races in their motorsport career in the worst of situations.
Just a standard, yeah.
So, results then on screen of our second Miltech Sports Civic Cup race of the day. Morgan Bailey and Bruce Winfield our finish first and second, with Ben Mills joining them on the podium. Bradley Lane and Jamie Tonks fourth and fifth. Paul Taylor, Alistair Camp and Max Lewis round out the top 8 finishers. So the field of Civics, as I said, amongst many who have put on a good show today, and we look forward to tracking their progress throughout the season. The Civic Cup, as with the VW Racing Cup, will be supporting TCR UK and the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy all season long. So if you've enjoyed the racing today, you'll see all of these championships and lots of others as well joining the bill as we go through the rest of the season. So the reason for this delay is that we're waiting for the drivers to get from Parc Ferme down to Bryn Lucas in the pit lane again because of COVID-19 social distancing regulations. We are not allowed that many people into Parc Ferme, so rather than grabbing them from an interview directly in there, we have had to wait for them to make their way back to the pit lane by foot. And the trouble is that racing drivers, as rapid as they are out on a racetrack, as soon as they get out of the cars, they become real slow coaches because they all want to talk to each other, they all want to share discussions of the various battles they've had. That's the podium that awaits them, a very different kind of podium presentation that we're used to as well, with drivers having to make their own way up onto the podium, pick their own trophy up as if they haven't worked hard enough already today behind the wheel, and they can spray the bubbly if they want, or save it maybe for a drink later on this evening, which I think might well be the order of the day. A lot of these drivers are wet and cold enough as it is without spraying champagne at each other. That stuff stings when it gets in your eyes as well, so I think we might see a few of them choose to save the bottle of bubbly for a little bit later on. So once the drivers are there, we'll have a chat with them, and some interesting stories to tell there, aren't there? That was a fascinating race between, well, everyone really. We had about 8 or 10 cars for the lead, I think, at one point, but Morgan Bailey gets the win, and Bruce Winfield in second position. Now, hang on, that's changed, hasn't it? I've just realised my timing screen has dumped. Alistair Camp and Max Lewis have both just... this will also be furthering the delay, I'm sure, because Alistair Camp, who finished second on the road, has been given, by the look of it, a 10-second penalty. Not sure what that could be for. No, 5-second penalty, I think it is. Yeah, 5-second penalty for he and Max Lewis, both of whom were up there in the top 5. So I think this has jumbled around the podium order. I've now got Morgan Bailey, the race winner. Timing screen has literally just changed. Bruce Winfield second from 15th on the grid, and Ben Mills finishing in third. And Ben started 13th, having been off in the gravel in the previous race. So the confused looks on people's faces are probably as a result of the slight uncertainty, shall we say, as to who is in which podium position. So we'll get to the bottom of it. We're nothing if not thorough. We'll bring you this last podium interview, or these last podium interviews, plural, before we leave you here at Oulton Park. Gone past the 6:30 curfew now, but of course we are on the live stream able to stick with it to the bitter end and get the last chats from our drivers out of the way. There's Stuart Lyons, the man behind Maximum Network, and the person that runs not only the Civic Cup and the VW Racing Cup, but also the Dunlop Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK these days. It's one of his sons, I think, there enjoying a moment up on the podium as the crowd gathers. And now we're getting some drivers. No, still no sign of at least the drivers that we need anyway for our podium presentation. So hopefully we will be able to head down there fairly shortly. Goes ahead, can he turn into the corner? I think he can. In the meantime, here are a few highlights of the race, and the start was fairly energetic. It was Oliver Barsby that ended up off going round the first corner, and he unfortunately squandered his pole position chances. The battling, though, was very intense the whole way through, and as the race leaders started to jostle for position at the front, it was in the end Morgan Bailey who came home a race winner. He's down there with Brim.
Well, Morgan, that was quite some race for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't bad really. Big improvement on the first race. Just managed to get past 2 cars at the first couple of laps and keep my head down and just steady it down as the rain came in. But no, I was pleased with that.
Did the rain come for you at the exact right moment?
It was starting to drizzle when we were on the grid. It just got worse and worse, and obviously it gets damper and damper, so the lap times go down, but you just got to keep it safe. I mean, there's a bit of a gap to behind, just manage it, and I'm just quite happy.
And you look right now, it's not bright sunshine clearly, but it's a lot drier than it was. A bit of standing water still out here in the paddock, but
got no rain now, but no, we had a bit of drizzle.
Did you have a game plan going into it?
Never do. It's always just try my best. Got a good start. Managed to get a few places on the start. It was fairly clean after that, and kept progress. Good progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're the first in the race. You're also the first one here to the podium at the moment. So you're the quickest one of all. Yeah. Talk us a little bit through the championship then. What attracts you to racing in the Civics?
Yeah, it's such a close championship. It's not mega money on car preparation. It's engines are fairly standard, and you can do it all yourself. I mean, I do all the car myself: engine, gearbox, bodywork. That's a satisfaction, isn't it?
So what, you go back now and have to strip it all down and rebuild?
Yeah, well, it wants a new boot lid and a bumper and a rear crash bar for the
That's
first race.
superficial, right?
Yeah,
They get away with that.
That's all part of it. It's as much money in the garage as it is at home.
Yeah. And what's it been like for you with these changes, with the bizarreness of coronavirus and what it's brought to motorsport?
Yeah, it was a long time at home, but we can't do anything about it. You've all got to contribute. And it's paid off because we're here today. I didn't think we'd be here this year at all.
What did you do then to get yourself ready for this weekend? Clearly it worked.
Couldn't do a lot, to be fair. We were stuck at home for 6-7 weeks, whatever it was, when I was off work.
Yeah.
And then we did 2 test days here before the event, and that's been it really. The tyre change since last year, which I find is a lot better.
Yeah.
Suiting me, I think.
Certainly did. Well, you know, it proved quite nicely for you, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. A great win, and something to kick on for next time.
Yeah. So no podiums to date, and then top step. So I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, like buses, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
Well, well done to you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
There you have it. Our race winner, Morgan Bailey. Now I'm having a look around to see if the other drivers are here for the podium, and Well, I'm not sure they are. So I think what we might do is wrap it there, because they are meandering slowly. They've got to the end of their race day. They're all very excited, all a bit tired as well. It's been quite an emotional day, really. We have got another driver to see. Nice to have you along here. So that was a decent race for you, wasn't it, Ben? And probably a bit surprising that you jumped up to third.
Yeah, well, we started way down in 13th and got a bit of a blinding start, to be honest, and climbed way up the order. And it was just a case of slowly picking off people one by one after that, and we were a bit lucky, and some cars in front of us got a time penalty which promoted us up to third, so very happy.
But it's also, you say they had a time penalty and you got a bit lucky, but also you didn't get lucky because you raced the correct line. You didn't get overstating the track limits.
At the end of the day, the rules are the rules, aren't they? If you don't abide by the rules, you get punished, so yeah. Stick by the rules and you won't get. It's
a fine line though, isn't it, particularly on wet conditions, because you can get a bit of a wobble on and get fire off into a different line that you were going to try to avoid.
In conditions like this, especially when it starts spitting under rain in the last third of the race, it's extremely difficult to say the least. The entry of the corner is completely different condition to the exit of the corner, so you just 9 times out of 10 you can't predict what's going to happen, but a bit of luck does come into it every now and again.
It's nice, especially when you get promoted to third and take some shiny, I was going to say silver, but silver coated something back home with you.
Exactly, and a bit of champagne too.
It's always quite nice, isn't it? Have a safe trip and well done.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. There you go. So that is 2 of the 3. I can see Bruce over there. Let's go. Bruce, can you come over here for us? Just dragging him away from other media commitments too. Bruce, it was an odd one. You snuck into third right near the end and then promoted to second.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Obviously, the guy in front obviously got a 10-second penalty for track limits from what I gather. So yeah, second place will take that. Obviously first and second, first round of the season, so yeah, I couldn't ask for much more, to be honest.
And the reverse grid always puts you, normally puts you somewhere in the pack, doesn't it, for race 2, so you have to bring out a different set of skills.
Yeah, so obviously after the first race, that put me P10, a bit of accident in the first race. That then demoted me another 5 positions, so obviously put me P15. So yeah, to come through to third place was good. Got stuck behind a couple of people for a little while, which obviously cost me a little bit of time then. And also they shortened the race by a couple of minutes, so that ultimately probably cost another couple of laps, which we maybe could have got a little bit further up the field, but yeah, it was good.
Are you happy with your day's work then?
Yeah, all in all, yeah, it's not a bad day at the office really.
Not bad, is it? Not bad. Well, go and get your trophy and well done. Hopefully see you back on the top step at some point soon.
Hopefully, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Bruce, there you go. So that is it from us here at Oulton Park for, well, loads of races really. Back at track, and even though wintry and a bit nasty, we've had a great day. Hopefully you've enjoyed it too. We'll see you next time.
Finally, someone is listening. We do all your office's services in one place. Telephone systems, communication lines, IT support, cloud migration, and print services.
Oh, fastest lap there for Jamie Tonks back in the pack. There he is, the white and red car. Even going up the inside, there's 3 abreast into Oulton. What a move from Jamie Tonks. I'll tell you what, there's contact on the exit. That almost went wrong, but that was a brilliant bit of racecraft there for Jamie Tonks. Someone in only his 2nd ever motor race. He's done lots of track days, but no actual racing. You'd never know it. That was a 3-wide move up the inside of Ross Darlington and Ben Mills. Bit of contact with Ben Mills on the exit of the corner, but they just about avoided significant contact, and the battling is pretty intense out there. Windscreen wipers on there for Bradley Lane in 3rd, so it does look as though the Rain has made a return, but it's not stopping him.
How are you doing? The inside of Max Lewis, too far back though into the shell.